Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in again. Today we're sharing a little bit more of our family adventure in Israel. Amy and I and our 5 kids were there for almost 3 months. And today I'm just sharing 3 or 4 stories. I think it was day 35. We did these daily YouTube shorts. That's what we're on, is this family YouTube channel. But it was day 35. We were down in the Jewish quarter underneath the Herva Synagogue. There's a 15-minute documentary or movie, so that Independence War Memorial down there, really chronicling the last 2 weeks or so of the resistance that was put up by the Jews in the Jewish quarter before the Jordanian forces ultimately overtook them and took them prisoner and took most of them to Jordan, Transjordan. So we're down there watching this movie. We just wrapped up. We'd taken some friends down there watching it with us. And as we were coming out, this group of 20, 25 soldiers was coming in. And I asked one of their leaders, I said, hey, can I address the troop of soldiers here? I just want to share a little bit about why we're in Israel. And so they interpreted for us into Hebrew. And as we were finished, they wanted to take a selfie with us. It was really neat just to encourage them. But two of them came up to us to say thank you in person. One of them with tears literally welling up in his eyes. And it was just so touching to see this response, this connection that we're able to have with them. So go back and check that out. It was day 35. On day 65, we decided we'd all go up onto the Temple Mount together, the whole family. And you can go back in the daily shorts and have a look. There's on day 65, there's that short when we just come off the Temple Mount. And you'll see there's a video there with a lot of children in the video. Well, as we were in the staging area getting ready to go up onto the Temple Mount, there were these different groups that they were putting together. There was a bunch of kids, and I thought, well, that's strange. I didn't know why. I'd never experienced that before going up on the Temple Mount. And there was somebody here that spoke Hebrew, said, oh, they're calling for people with children. That's you. So I said, hey, we have 5 children. And he said, no, it's Jews only. It's a special event. I thought, okay, that's no problem. We didn't know what was going on. And so we ended up getting up onto the Temple Mount. We went on down the south side past the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And then we were going up onto the east side. And we were getting closer to this group. And these soldiers came over to us and said, well, what are you doing? And I said, oh, well, we're just teaching our kids. We're explaining to them why we were in Israel and what we were doing. And they just waved us on to join this group with all these kids that we were previously told, no, you can't go because it's a special event. So we joined this group and we're walking along and we're on the east side of the Temple Mount. It's just a beautiful experience. They've got their IDF and police escort. And there was this one gentleman that was leading these prayers and just these talks he was giving. It's quite interesting. And as a couple that we were talking to from the coast, it's the first time they'd been up on the Temple Mount. They spoke really good English. Well, they went over, once they'd heard our story, they went over to this gentleman and started explaining. We didn't know this at the time, but she was explaining our story to this man. And he looked over, he seemed quite interested. And she came over back to us and told us his story. Well, it was probably 4 or 5 months before, back in May of 2025, that he had lost his 7, 8-year-old daughter in an accident. And it was her birthday that day. And in order to memorialize and to commemorate and celebrate his daughter's life on her birthday, he wanted to gather as many families as he could and as many children as he could and take them up onto the Temple Mount to bring joy to their lives. And so we got, connected, this divine appointment with this man that had this burning desire, this passion to celebrate his daughter. And somehow we got connected. Well, afterwards, you'll see that there was some dancing and singing just as we came off the Temple Mount. But I went over to this man and just gave him a hug. Didn't speak any Hebrew with him. He didn't speak any English. But it was just really special that on this special day to him, that our family he wanted lots of children there to celebrate his daughter. And so there was other families, but our family also got included just to be a blessing to this. As we were touring around the various sites in Jerusalem, we'd meet these different groups of people. Normally it was a family, sometimes it was a couple or an individual. But more often than not, they had recently made Aliyah, emigrated to Israel, back to Israel to live. And we just felt so stirred in meeting these people, just encouraging them. Often they'd ask us, why we were there. Sometimes we got to share in detail. But then there was a really special one where there was this family with 3 kids. You know, husband's carrying the stroller. They're trying to get the kids up. It was a really hot day, trying to get the kids up these several flights of staircases, steep staircases going up from the Western Wall up into the Jewish quarter. And I'd already talked to them. It was a really neat interaction. And we carried on. We just finished a live stream. It was Alex, Kate, and I had just done this live stream. But I ran back to them, got some cash out of my pocket. They were bribing their kids with this prospect of having a treat in the Jewish quarter once they got up there. And I just said, hey, this is to bless you, bless your family. This is to bless your kids, make it really special. And just these opportunities to be a blessing that we hadn't planned, that we were just so stirred. You know, it says in Jeremiah 32:41, the Lord says, I will rejoice over them to do them good, and I will assuredly plant them in this land with all my heart and with all my soul. And so we were just there as our advocates, just to come alongside them, to bless them and encourage them, even if it was in a small way. So we found these really practical ways of serving people. There were lots of large families, often with one or two strollers, and coming up and down the stairs, we just grab the front of the stroller and help them up, or grab the front of the stroller and help them down. And then one day I found myself with this cafe. It got real busy, and I just started bussing tables, clearing the dishes away, just talking with people. That was a good way to connect with people. And then, day 68, you can go back and look on the daily shorts that we did. Day 68, we got to go and help Miss Gemma tear down her sukkah. That was a really neat experience for Owen. I think Enya and Reese and I were there with another couple. That was really special.